My name is Marcus Webb. I drove delivery vans in Birmingham. Same route, 5 years. Never once in trouble with the law. Until my Rehabilitation Compatibility Score came back at 31, and the court decided that was the only number that mattered. In 2031, the government introduced Rehabilitation Compatibility Scoring, a genetic and biometric index that determines, for every convicted person in England, whether they are sent to community rehabilitation or custody. The courts present it as objective, medical, like a blood pressure reading. The man who had actually organized the theft ring, whose stolen phone had ended up in my girlfriend's hands and then in mine, his score was 78. His name was Callum Fraser, company director, lived in Solihull. He was home by Christmas. I was not. My solicitor explained it to me the afternoon before sentencing. The score wasn't about what I had done. It was about what the algorithm predicted I might do. It draws on genetic markers, she said, stress response indicators, impulse regulation pathways. It's not about race, she said, very carefully, and I noticed she didn't look at me when she said it. I asked her how I could improve my score. She said I couldn't. It was genetic, fixed at birth. I asked how Callum Fraser, the man who had set up the entire operation, had ended up with a number more than twice mine. She said the algorithm doesn't assess culpability. It assesses compatibility. Those are different things, she said. I thought about Nia, about the deposit we'd been saving since the year before. We had a figure. We had a date. We'd looked at a place in King's Heath, 2 bedrooms, enough for a child eventually. I thought about how she'd have to keep paying rent alone for 18 months, about how much of the deposit would be left, about whether she'd still be there when I came out. I already knew the answer. I just couldn't say it out loud yet. They gave me 14 months. Callum Fraser received 240 hours of community service and a referral to a restorative justice program. He was photographed at a charity golf day 4 months later. I saw it on LinkedIn from inside. The specific thing I lost, the thing I keep returning to, wasn't the job, though I lost that. Wasn't even the flat, though we lost that too because Nia couldn't carry the rent alone. It was a Saturday morning in October. We had booked a viewing. King's Heath, 2 bedrooms. The estate agent had sent a confirmation email, and I remember reading it and thinking, this is the first real thing we have built together. The appointment was cancelled the morning of my sentencing. I never rescheduled it. There was no point. By the time I was released, Nia had moved back to her mother's. She wasn't unkind about it. She said she had waited as long as she could. I believed her. My mother looked up the genetic markers after I was released, the ones that had pulled my score down. They're inherited, paternal line. My grandfather spent 11 years in Winson Green prison, starting in 1987, for a robbery the family always said he didn't commit. His DNA was in the national database. The algorithm had trained on decades of conviction records built by a system that had been sending men like him to prison for generations. And it had learned that men who carried what he carried were incompatible with rehabilitation. It wasn't predicting my future. It was inheriting his. The score said I was incompatible. It never said with what.